Hello and welcome again to the 43rd podcast of danjohnuniversity.com. Hard to believe we're up that high already. We had a nice discussion the other day, and I want to just share one quick point with you because I think it's important. We were discussing what brought it about was my recovery from my titanium hips. And one of the things I said was the difference between my two rehabs was how much more I did with the Prowler this time than I did the last time. The first time, no problems at all. I mean, I lifted weights almost immediately, and we did a lot more, band work and small step ups. But this time I moved to the Prowler, and I was very happy. A couple of things I just want to talk about real fast. The biggest issue I see with the Prowler and most of the gyms I've been to and the videos online is they take it to an extreme. It's way too much load. I had a conversation with Brian, and he made a good point. He said, basically think sled march. And I thought, boy, that is right there, that's the key. So when I do sleds, it's much more like Mike Boyle teaches now. He calls it the horizontal squat, which is kind of an interesting idea. So when you're working in a gym setup that you don't have a ton of room, you don't have a massive field to push the Prowler in. If you go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, push, push, push. That's 5 left, 5 right. And next month you add to that load, and next month you add to that load. That's progressive resistance exercise. I like that much better than just piling on the plates. I'll watch people do the Prowler, and I like a high knee march where I trying my best to extend the pushing leg all the way through the big toe, and I really focus on a nice drive with the big toe at the end. And from what I understand, the big toe helps the glute engage better. Well, so why not do it right? What I often see is that mushy, if you ever played high school football and you had to deal with sleds, when you look down sometimes as a coach or even an athlete, you'll see the athlete's feet get way wide, and they really are in a position that they cannot use in a game. It's not a way, anybody can get out of the way. You just put your hands like this and push the athlete down. So I would say keep an eye on things in the Prowler world. When you're doing sleds, when you're dragging sleds, people also sometimes will overload it. I'm not a fan of that either. You want to be able to make sure you do the Prowlers, the sleds, the hill sprints. Focus on the quality and not just on the load in pressing someone. That's not going to help you very much. I hope that helped. It keeps coming up in some emails that I work with on my consulting with sled pulls and Prowlers and farmer walks. Load is important, but don't push load past quality. So let's begin. We have a question from Mike. Very simple question, and I'll try to make it as long-winded as I can in my answer. Mike asks, I was just wondering if there was a difference between the goblet squat and the double kettlebell front squat, aside from the load you are able to use. Well, but Mike, that is the big one. The fact that I have 2 bells is the big one. We didn't really see very many double kettlebell front squats before, 2009 or so. I wouldn't say it's a new exercise, but everyone had fallen in love with that single side kettlebell squat, which when you watch most people do it, it had, certainly their joints bent, but what I would consider a squat wasn't what I was seeing. The big thing with the goblet squat is the fact that you can use the load to push it out. You can do curls with it. You can do heartbeats with it. You can just slightly move it in and out to help open you up. By countering here and letting the load move, you can feel your hips opening. At least I can feel my hips opening. You can feel sometimes if you do little circles on down there, you can open up the ankles a little bit. Again, I'm not trying to get you more flexible. I'm just trying to show you the position you want to get in. Goblet squats work really well with 2-handed swings. Double kettlebell front squats work really well, I think, with double kettlebell cleans. I think the double kettlebell clean is one of the least appreciated kettlebell movements. clean, double kettlebell clean and double followed by a double kettlebell front squat can be a real hard workout by itself, and it's really not very well appreciated. But yeah, Mike, the big one is load. But after that, I think you do have a little bit more time in the goblet squat to work on the mobility, flexibility to the deep position. And the double kettlebell front squat might be one of the finest whole body lifts I know, because you're scrambling to, your anaconda strength is scrambling to hold this weight on while you slide up and down into the hole. It's a good question. But remember, I'm going to tell you, I think both are very important, okay? We have a question from Amy. Hi, I'm currently doing your 10,000 swing challenge 5 days a week, but wanted to ask what's the expected result if I do it for 8 weeks? Have you tried it? Or any recommendations? Oh, so you would be doing 250 a day, or yeah, that's fine. The thing about any challenge is simply this: it's simply a challenge. It's just if you decide to do it, finish it. And if it takes you 8 weeks, good. If it takes you 20 straight days, well, that's pretty impressive. I like the idea of having these little challenges sprinkled into a year. As short as 1 week, it can be as short as a 24-hour fast, or something you do for a week, or a month, or 6 weeks. After about 6 weeks, in your example's 8, but with this you might be able to do it. After 6, most things start to peter out a little bit. But I have not done it in 8 weeks, but I know many people have. When we slid from 500 swings a day to the 250 range, our programming obviously went up to 8 weeks plus. So yeah, there's a lot of value to it. Follow up. Secondly, any tips on how to eat during this time of doing it? I'm 172 centimeters and about 9 stone. I've gained 5 to 6 pounds. I don't know why, but I think it's because I'm under eating. You've put weight on while under eating. You know, Amy, would you mind getting back to me on that, just for a little clarity? I've tried one thing that was really interesting. I tried the Dan and Mary Eads, Eades, have a book called Middle Age Makeover. Now, they talked about this being their game-changing book, but they never really, they had a forum that lasted like an hour, and the website, I'm sure, is gone by now. It was very poor. But they had this idea of kind of a modified velocity diet where you did 3 protein shakes a day, and then a normal meal at night, but with lots and lots of vegetables. One time I ran through it doing that, and I got to tell you, that was eye-opening. It failed miserably because of some other issues, but you can certainly do something like, cut back. I do my 10,000 swings with intermittent fasting, so I don't eat until I've done the workout. But your lifestyle might be different than mine. I train in the morning about 9:30. So it means I probably, on a 10,000 swing challenge, I wouldn't eat till about 11. And by the way, I was always very hungry. So you might want to try a form of more protein shakes, skip a meal, protein shake kind of thing, or just try to do it in a fasted state. But I do want more follow-up on what you're asking here. We have a question from Jim. Since everything works for about 6 weeks, what would you think about rotating between park bench and some bus bench programs like the 40-day program, Lean Made Simple, or 1 lift a day in 6 week blocks? Jim, I love the idea. In fact, that's what I think you're supposed to do. Some of these programs like the 40-day, that works out to about 8 weeks. Lean Made Simple is about 6. And the 1 lift a day should be 2 months, should be a total of 8 weeks. I don't see a problem with this, but the only thing is, once you sneak around 8 weeks in a program, a lot of people lose off a little bit at the end. If you're going to do 1 lift a day, the last week 4, is a deload week. So that is a park bench week. So you might even I'm just making it more complex because that's what I do sometimes, but do something like 1 lift a day for 3 weeks, park bench workouts, 1 lift a day, park bench workouts from then on for a while until you try something different like the 40-day or something like that. He follows it up with this. I'd like to split up a year up into 4 13-week blocks, each with 2 6-week workout blocks and 1 week off. Any thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good idea. I wouldn't do really focused programs back to back to back to back to back. But if I could just say one thing, so make sure you have a 6-week block of, just general punch the clock workouts, park bench workouts, and then do something difficult, deload, take a week off, and repeat. I think you'd just be fine. In fact, it's actually kind of a clever idea. Doing the 40-day program, easy strength or even easier strength, that will work well. But more think in the winter on that one. Okay, it's more of a winter program for a general enthusiast. Lean made simple for you might be a good thing to do just before summer. And 1 lift a day is a great fall program. So there's just some ideas of when to program those in. Chris asks a question. Hi, Dan. Do you think there's much value in lifting with a straight barbell when there are other alternatives? I am a former powerlifter who transitioned to training BJJ, judo, and now I find squatting, deadlifting, and benching with the straight bars rougher on my shoulders, elbows, and low back. Well, you were a powerlifter who got into a martial arts, so yeah, you're going to have some issues. I have a trap bar, which I've been using for deadlifts, sure, and a safety squat bar for squats, and find them a lot more forgiving, even when I use smaller weights. Here at the gym, we use Dave Draper's True Squat, TRU squat. Same idea as a safety squat. Yeah, I think there's great value in that. Of course, Chris, I want you to think about this. If you have to constantly keep adapting your equipment because of your injuries, and I've done that myself, here's a little caveat to you. Let's stop for a moment and let's rethink this. If you can't squat because you can't get your hands back there, those mobility, flexibility, injury issues are just going to exacerbate as you age. So I'm just tossing that out to you, something to think about long term. So yeah, I'm a big fan of those things. And now comes the big question. Lastly, do you think there's much carryover between using these bars? For example, if I worked up to a 300 kilo trap bar deadlift, surely I could straight bar deadlift 85 to 90% of that. Well, that's not been anybody's experience that I know. The trap bar is a little bit too forgiving when it comes to deadlifts. My friend, the great late Lane Cannon, was doing high intensity training, HIIT, and he got his. Now I want you to hear this number. Since you're using kilos, I'll translate it both ways. So he got up to 405 kilos in the trap bar deadlift for 20. Which is what 405 is 100. It's 185 kilos for 20 reps, and then he decided to max out, and he got to 192.5, and he was heartbroken. And we had a long discussion about it, and the problem with training yourself up to 20 reps doesn't correlate to a single. Trap bars, does it correlate to you? Now, if you're this tall, it probably will. If you're this tall, it might not. The grip on the farmer bar is a lot more forgiving than this grip. So it'll be interesting. I can't say yes or no. I would sneak, if on the 90%, I would slide back towards maybe the 85%. That's just my surmise. Okay, it's my experienced guess. But many people who train on the different bars are often a little disappointed when they go to the competitive bars. Again, though, don't take this as one is good and one is evil. It's simply the fact that those other pieces of equipment are designed to, get around some things, and there's nothing wrong with that. For our listeners who don't have all that equipment, ignore everything we just talked about. We have a question from Dan. What a nice name. I'm almost 33, and I saw on a previous podcast you recommended focusing on getting as strong as possible until around age 35. That's the research from the Physiology of Strength by Heidegger. Some people question some of his parts of the book, but I don't think anybody disagrees with the fact that once you get to a certain strength level, you stay there for the rest of your life. So you can either get to this strength level or this strength level, and then both are going to drop. Okay. From there, focusing after age 35, focusing more on hypertrophy work. I also said joint mobility work too. Would you recommend Mass Made Simple for someone my age, or something like Easy Strength or 531 first? Before doing Mass Made Simple, do you recommend attaining a certain strength standard to get the most benefit from the program? So you're 33. Yeah, I would get as strong as I could. So let's slide Mass Made Simple to the side just for a second. It depends on how strong you want to be. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Jim Wendler's 531. You're 33. It's a cake recipe. It's very simple. It's plug and play. Bench, squat, deadlift, military. Run some hills. It's very good. You can get very strong on it. You're not going to get beat up doing it, and you can string that together for the next couple decades. However, if you do decide to do something like easy strength, the difference would be on Jim's program, you basically would bench and deadlift once a week, and on easy strength, you would deadlift and bench every day, but with really light loads, 2 sets of 5, bye-bye. I was looking at 13, 14-minute workouts when I was doing it. So right there, if you can only get to the gym twice a week, when there's 531, do the 2-day a week one. If you have access to a gym daily, try easy strength. Should you get as strong as you can before Mass Made Simple? There's 2 things I recommend. So let me answer this. One, you have to know how to squat and squat well. So I have a 6-week ramp-up program in the book. But the other thing I recommend before Mass Made Simple is leaning out. So if you did the 6-week squat program and then at the same time tried to lean out a little bit, that's what works best. You're not going to deadlift for the entire time on Mass Made Simple. There's a lot of things you're not going to do. You're going to do complexes, you're going to bench press, you're going to one-hand press, you're going to do bird dogs, bat wings, and squat. And that is all you do. It's not a lifetime program. It's a very specific mass building program. Do you get stronger on it? I have had some people tell me some amazing things about how their strength levels have gone through the roof, yes. And then we have another series of questions from Dan. Also, what are your thoughts on doing a couple 500 swing workouts throughout the week when not participating in the 10,000 swing challenge? I recently completed the 10K swing challenge. What a doozy. But I feel now I could flip a Volkswagen. I've done that. And wanted to continue my training with a 500 swing workout. The 1 kettlebell workout you posted on Dragon Door, and rucking, hill sprints, walking, as I only have access to a single 24 kilo kettlebell during this lockdown. Oh yeah, I mean, in fact, I wish you would have separated those 2 questions into 2 different weeks. So, yeah, Dan, I would 500 once a week would be okay. I'm more aligned with like Pat Flynn is a big believer in that 300 number. We discovered in our gym we slid that down to 250 if you're going to do it almost every day, 3 days a week. And if you're going to do it 5 days a week, I now have the number down at 75 to 125. So 75 is only 5 sets of 15. Great warm up. But yeah, you certainly can. I like where your head's at with this idea. So you would do a 500 swing workout, maybe something like the humane burpee, which is that swing, goblet, squat, push-up workout. Certainly you'd want to add some extra kettlebell presses to that. And this idea of rucking, hill sprints, and walking. What you might find at the end of all this, Dan, is you don't really need anything else. That's not a bad program. In fact, that's really quite good. With the humane burpee, you can knock that out, 7 minutes or so? So that's going to be a finisher in a workout, or the main part of a workout. When you do the humane burpee, or some of the other workouts that are in the books that I have, hardstyle kettlebell challenge, be sure you look at everything else. I have fairly long warm-ups in there, and then we have that major piece, and then we practice things like Turkish get-ups or half-kneeling presses or joint mobility. I'm a big believer, personally, by the way, in the for normal people, general population, the hardest part of the workout should be right in the middle, or even kind of, so warm up something hard, and then training session and practice after that. Thanks for your question. Cool asks a question. How do you deload your strength athletes before competition? That's the hardest thing there is. I'm a big believer in something John Powell taught me, the great discus thrower. His coach, Richard Marks, Marks, real influence on throwing in America. He believed that your nervous system can only make so many adaptations. So as you got deeper into the season, he wanted your strength levels to go down so that the other qualities, throwing basically, would go up. The problem is, and I say this all the time, most throwers want to chase two rabbits. They want to win the gym, and then they want to win the track meet. And what happens is they win the gym and they blow the track meet. So it's a conscious decision to slowly, I wouldn't say we're trying to get weaker, but if you were doing 5 sets of 5 in the squat example, the workout would be 2 sets of 2. You would do your best to keep the loads up there, but you don't have to stay as high. A few times in my career, I had the courage to just say, okay, I'm strong enough, and back off. Those always were my best track seasons. My senior year at Utah State, which is probably my second or third best year of my career. My best year would be 2004, 2008 maybe, which is weird because I was, almost 50. This is weird. But my senior year, I basically decided I was sick of the weight room. I was just sick of it. And I made this great decision to just do squat snatch, power clean, and then just keep my bench and my back squat okay. So I had read something that Alexiev said you only needed basically 10 kilos or 20 pounds more than your best clean and jerk, and that's what you would back squat. So at the time, I could clean and jerk easily 365. I think I didn't do 385 for another decade or so. 165 kilos, 175 kilos. So basically, I'd only use 175 kilos in the back squat, 385, and I only do a couple reps. And on the bench, I would train with the football players and basically use what they used. And no offense to them, but I was stronger. And what was nice is by easing off in the weight room, I'll give you the whole system right now. I had a 70% workout on Monday where I focused on more volume. And at the time, that would have been like sets of 5. Wednesday was the heavy day where I tried to get up to about, heavier weights, no misses. And then on Friday, the day before a weightlifting meet, I only did 80% for a single in those 4 lifts. Well, if you're, I don't know, let's just say, if you can clean 365 and the workout calls for a 315 clean, and it just feels like there's nothing on the bar. And all I had to do it for once, it'd be a boom. Now, what I was trying to do was light up the nervous system. And I still think that's the very best training program I've ever done. 70% on Monday, get up to a quality set of 5 or 3 or 5. A heavier day Wednesday where I'd go heavy, ease up, bye-bye. And then on Friday, basically 4 singles. And I don't even know if I even had to warm up in the bench press for it. It was like 1 rep and I was done. So that's how I do it, and I continue to do it that way. With the athletes I work with, and it's interesting, even with the professional athletes, they still want to win the gym, and they forget about winning the field of play. Years ago, an NFL team, I'm pretty sure, lost the Super Bowl because the week before their coaches were having them go max, and they had a chance to win that game and did not. Did they leave it in the gym? I don't know. It's football. It's complicated. And follow up to cool. And how do you deload between strength cycles? Well, the tradition in my world is you bodybuild, because to us, bodybuilding is like fun. So You can do something as simple as a whole body bodybuilding workout. Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you do every basic human movement. Or you can do it like a lot of the gym rats do it. There's a chest day, a leg day, and no one ever does the leg day, and a back day. But for us, it's basically bodybuilding. Having said that, most elite athletes can't deload. They can't do it. They can't deload. So what I've discovered in many coaches is off. You give them a week off. I don't want you going to your home gym. I don't want you going to your personal trainers. Don't get into a bench press contest with someone you've never met before. Just, go to an all-inclusive resort somewhere and, lay on a beach. That seems to be the best. Off is best for elite athletes because they can't turn that engine off. I'm not a big fan of Michael Jordan either way, but his all he ever wants to do is compete, and you're not going to have a guy like that deload in the gym. When I'm over there front squatting, he's going to want to show how strong he is. So deloading is the hardest thing you can do as a coach. Manjeet sends us these questions. Interested to hear your thoughts on how to increase the power clean. I would like to reach your standard of 200 pounds, but I'm sitting at 155 and weighing the same. If you weigh 155, a 200 pound clean is going to be difficult. The best tool I ever found, it's this little drill we do where when you take the bar off the ground, you pause. Okay, you push your heels in the ground, and then you pause when the bar comes off this much. So for you probably want to do this with like 115 pounds the first time. Pause. Like at 1,000, 1,002. Come up about this high again. Pause. 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 When it gets to below the knees, you push your chin forward, you push your butt back, and you feel the hinge. Pause. Slide it above your knees. 3, 2, 1. Jump. And what that does is it teaches the rhythm of an appropriate clean. That single drill has been the best thing I've used to get people from where you're at. That 150 to 200 pound hump is often a rhythm issue. Many people try to do a fast deadlift and try to momentum the weight to here. But really, you've got to lift, you've got to hinge, you've got to snap the weight up. So try that drill. Take a video of it, send it in, and I'll critique it. Thank you. Wayne asks a good question. Do you have any recommendations of which sandbags to buy for the bear hug carries? Mine is, and I do work for the company, so just bear that in mind. I use the big ones from Perform Better. They're black and they kind of knit at the top a little bit. And then I go to these home places, these places where you can get wood, you can get nails, those places. And I buy playground sand. I used to buy other stuff, but now I buy the 50-pound playground sandbags. And the reason is this: it is gonna get out. The sand is going to leak. But what's nice about playground sand is that I can broom it. I tend to blow it, and if it does get into my grass or my garden or nature, it's good clean sand, and you don't have to worry as much about it. Here's the funny thing: I'm more worried about the sand than the workout because once you've had sand in an indoor facility, it's like your Christmas tree pine needles. You might have had an artificial tree for 30 years. But if you rip up the carpet, you're going to find pine needles. It's like dog and cat hair. It just never goes away. So I hope that helps, okay? Perform Better, the big black bag, load it up. And by the way, people have told me they use things like washers and all kinds of different things. I guess these wood pellets for those slow cooking grills are pretty good. But again, do you really want to be picking up washers off your floor? Because every one of those washers is going to have to be picked up one at a time. And with the wood pellets, I just don't know if they would degrade in the soil, or, of course, 20 years from now when someone's cleaning up your gym, what is this junk? Yeah. So I use playground sand. Thank you. Question from Patrick. As a teacher, I'm thinking about ways to honor the senior class, whom I will not be able to see again until what looks like well after graduation. And by that point, most will be off again to begin their post-high school journeys. Other teachers are doing 493 things. This is the number of students in our senior class. My principal, for example, is riding 493 on her bike before June 10th, their graduation date. Personally, I'd like to deadlift 493 pounds. So my question is on best program for this task and whether it is even possible for me. My deadlift PR is 435 after a 3-month powerlifting program a couple of years ago. And I did get 465 to my kneecaps, but couldn't finish the lift. I have not deadlifted since and rather have focused on mobility, conditioning, and some kettlebell work. So I have 38 days until that 610 mark. Not now, not when I'm reading this. Since I haven't deadlifted, I'm estimating my 1 rep max to be around 350 to 375 presently. I've already answered this question, I think, in an email, but let's continue. Years ago, my daughter Kelly did a fundraiser for our custodian at school who had gotten cancer, Joel, and one of the ways I raise money is in front of the whole student body without training and a necrotic left leg. I pulled a 600-pound deadlift. And the way I did that is I got, about 1,000 people in a room, and they were cheering me on, and I made the damn deadlift. So one thing I would recommend, and you didn't give me height or anything, but this is just a challenge. So I would recommend that you, when you load the bar, I would put the bar on some wooden planks, maybe about this high. Get that bar up, so if you're wearing tube socks, at least a tube sock height, and maybe even a little bit higher, because you're doing this as a fundraiser, as a challenge, as a way to honor the students. One thing I really strongly recommend is many farmer walks as you can do, even bear hug carries. Get your grip and your anaconda strength up. Since it's so late in the time-wise, I would even suggest doing some I don't usually recommend high rep deadlifts, but in this case, I would suggest doing some, even sets of 20, 1, 2, 3 sets of 20 with something very light, like 135 off the floor, to just groove that pattern, kind of an easy strength on high reps. Get your work capacity in from the loaded carries. Groove that movement, and then put that weight up on some racks. And good luck to you, okay? Thank you. And let us know how you do. We have a question from Lefter. I did kettlebell swings for 2 workouts, 35 and 50 reps with a 16 kilo bell. Sets of 5 to 7 reps, and experienced mid and upper back soreness, cramp or tension, I really do not know, after the workout, even the second or third day after I did them. Have you experienced something like this with your students and clients? No. How should I deal with this? Lefter, I got to see your technique, man. 16K bell isn't that much. Now 50 reps is, and 7 sets of 50 reps is a lot. So if you have any if you overarch at the top, if you do anything strange, that's going to impact how you feel, and especially this idea of mid and upper back. Send me a video and maybe I can help you critique that, but I'm almost completely sure it's how you start, and then it's how you pick the bell up off the ground, and then from there, how you finish at the top. It would also be interesting just to see what position your back kind of moves into. Wait until you're feeling okay, and then send me a video. Thank you. Marcus asked a question that I've had many times in many different forums. I am interested in doing 531, Jim Wendler's program, but I don't have a squat rack, and it calls for squatting. I can power clean the bar and do front squats and military presses instead of back squats and bench press. Do you think these would be reasonable adjustments? Should I just use a different program? And if so, what do you think would be best? Yeah, I think you should do a park bench program. But yeah, I mean, I trained for years. In fact, I don't even know why I have a rack. I think someone donated it again. We don't have a bench. I've never had a bench in a home gym because the bench press is the only lift that kills, and squat racks tend to be they're fine. There's nothing wrong with a home gym with them. But yeah, the way I front squat is I clean it and then I get the front squat reps in, and I like that a lot. So let's review though. There's 4 lifts in the program. So there's back squat, military press, deadlift, and bench press. So you're telling me that you can't do the back squat and the bench press. So that kind of leaves us with a program problem. You can't do half of the lifts in a program. Yeah, I would say you probably want to find something else. If you decided to do something like 5-3-1 with the variations you're talking about, where you would do military, front squat, and deadlift, I still think you're going to probably have to find another lift, but you can certainly try the template for a month. It is the standard way people train, but I would suggest for you, type the word Southwood and then my name in Google. You'll find it on all my websites. You'll find it in articles on T Nation, but that might be a better program for you. It's a program based on power clean, front squat, military, and in the original bench press, but in the home version, not there. But it is interesting that I get so many questions for other people's work, and the equipment issue always shows up. That's why we have the workout generator on my site. So you put in the equipment you have, and you'll get exercises based on what you have, not what you wish you had. And I tell you, there's a big difference there. Marcus, good luck to you. Zachary writes, long rucks have become a mainstay for me lately. Do you have any general recommendations or standards for rucks? Time, distance, weight, etc. Yeah, one thing, I mean, I'm just going back to the Roman Empire here, but I'm not a huge fan of getting over 15 kilos, 33 pounds in the backpack. So what I'm starting to find is this, Zachary, is when I do my rucking, instead of adding more weight to the backpack, I'm trying to put weights in different places. So obviously I've been doing heavy hands since the 80s, but the other day I bought some 3-pound weights. I'd been using 10 and 5, and we had 2, so I thought, well, try the 3s. Oddly, the 3s with a ruck pack really add more hit than adding more weight. Those 3 pounds out here are so inefficient, you start to huff and puff and really feel it. The other thing I want you to think about, I'm experimenting with this, so it's new for me, is I bought 5-pound ankle weights. I bought 3 sets of them. So we're putting ankle weights, padded ankle weights, and going with those. And I got to tell you, for me, I think ankle weights and hand weights might actually be better for most people than actual rucking. I like to divide my rucks up into 2 kinds, about 1.5 miles at a fairly quick pace, and a more of and then a kind of a more, well, I don't want to call it relaxed, but more of a, where we have conversations for about 2.5 miles. We also do the Phil Maffetone MAF test about once a month, and that's a 3-mile walk. We have to keep your heart rate monitor has to be on, and for mine, I try to stay around 107 beats per minute because of my age, and so for me, when I do that, I don't need very much load at all to get to 107 if I do something like complexes, get my heart rate up. And what you do on this 3-mile walk is you time every mile. So I keep it at 107, and then at the finish of every mile, we just remember how long that took. And say like the first time you do it, your 3rd mile takes you 19 minutes, 30 seconds. Well, after you've been doing rucking for a few weeks, months, you do the test again, your heart rate remained at 107, but you finished in 17 minutes, you can figure that you're probably trending in the right direction in your cardiovascular health. And that's really what you want to do with cardiovascular health. You want to be kind of moving in the direction of better. So I don't get a lot of benefit of going more than an hour in rucks. Oh, maybe that's because, I have that disease squirrel, that thing. But keep the loads more reasonable than you think. Keep the walks between like 40 minutes and an hour. And I think it's more important to do it once or twice a week for months rather than doing it once and never doing it again. So whatever gets you to come back and do it again, Zachary, that's where I want your numbers to be. Well, thank you so much. That was podcast number 43. And remember, if you have questions, I'll do my best to answer each and every single one of them. Just email us at podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. And like I say, I'll do my best to answer everything you ask. Thank you.